Good Friday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age YouTube channel that talks about all my cars and trucks and SUVs and motorcycles. And wow, my voice sounds pretty bad this morning. What's that all about? Gee whiz. Got to get it cleared out. Sorry for anybody out there watching my channel. Oh my gosh, it's Friday morning. Another week has passed us, and already the first week of the year is gone. Look at the pond. Pond here has all the ice covered over it because it's cold up here. And boy, I tell you what, my voice is in pretty bad shape. I think as I keep on talking and clear up. So apologies for those out there, but it's just a really cold morning. And just hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in my channel, and appreciate all the comments, support, and all the good stuff. And man, I guess if I get some water out of my barn over here as I get over the barn to get the daily conversation going and try to come up with another story, another adventure of my life, of my addictions to my cars and the motorcycles, the tractors, the engines, the motors. And so what's interesting is one of my subscribers reached out yesterday, and he actually gave me an idea for today's video. And it kind of goes with the theme of the week, because if you're watching me, I started Tuesday's week off, not Monday. And Tuesday was all about America and where it really came from, on the American love of the cars, manufacturing, and so I thought that was a really good thing. And then Wednesday was muscle, about the muscle cars. And then Thursday was yesterday the little conversations, just the little things that seemed to irritate us, or how the cars became littler for the challenges of the EPA. And this guy's all wound up. These guys are wound up this morning. One reason you're hearing me, I've been chasing these damn dogs around. I mean, they're out of control. Now, that dog there, he rarely does all this. So what is in the food this morning? I mean, everybody's just so wound up. And here we go. Here it is. Yeah, so get in the barn. Where the alligator toy came from, I don't know about that. I don't know where that came from. Did my dog steal it from the neighbor? Oh my gosh, finally got the sink installed. Maybe that's what's going on. Finally got my sink back. The plumber guy came over at 6 o'clock. Hey Josh, if you're watching my channel, what a cool, great guy. Went out of his way to take care of me, and he didn't get out of here close to 9 o'clock last night. But he did a fabulous job. And I've got a kitchen sink and garbage disposal, and all the plumbing's put back in. So the good news is my kitchen's back in order. And hey, Kiefer, nope, I know your routine. You can't do that. Go ahead. Go on, Scout. Go on. Go on. Get up here. Nope, you ain't doing that. Nope, you ain't doing that. It's all about a routine. And stop that. You just stop it. Stop it. So, well, it just doesn't end. Training a puppy dog to be a real dog is not easy. And there you hear him upstairs having his attitude. My other dog, the girl and the boy. So anyways, there's probably another reason my voice is done, because I did so much talking yesterday. Because, hey, I like to talk, like, get all the lights, camera action on. But here's the thing. The subscriber reached out and said, have a conversation about an engine versus a motor. And I was like, that's a really good idea. Here, the name of my channel is Ice Age TV, which the ICE stands for internal combustion engine. And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. I really haven't spent a lot of time focusing on where did the ICE engine come from. When did it all start? Even for me, I never have really even looked that up or searched it. So as the YouTuber guy that likes to try to keep my channel very active and those that watch it to being informed of information that they can read just as well as me. But I thought, yeah, that's a great thing, is I need to research that. And even for me, I'm kind of taken back. It's hard to believe that technically the first engine, now the word engine has been around since the Greek times, because it's more about, engine can mean more than just an engine that you and I know of that propels a vehicle down the road. It can mean other things as far as apparatus, military stuff, things that were used back in the ancient times, about how they made things to move things. Because an engine in so many ways is really a tool in our world that propels us to move things. So there's that Kiefer dog, man. It just ain't simple trying to get these dogs to all acclimate together And so anyways, the ICE engine, as far as the internal combustion engine, it's crazy to read about how many people started working on that concept. But it goes back to 1794. Yeah, 1794. Hard to believe that was one of the first engines. And then it goes like 1797, 1800, and it goes through the 1800 years, but it really doesn't come to the Otto, O-T-T-O, I think, or O-T-O, engine with the spark until like the late 1800s to master the internal combustion engine. So there's lots of engines that are developed throughout the years, and I even have it on my phone. A little later, I was going to read kind of more in depth of what is more the people that made these things. Samuel Brown, I think Steve Johnson or John Stevens was an individual back in the late 1700s that created the engine. He was a military guy and a colonel, and then like a lawyer, politician. He was a very astute individual. And then you go to, it kind of goes from America being on the developing engines goes to France. The French, back in the 1850s, start fiddling with the engines. And then it goes to the Germans, where if you're a German favorite, if you're a real person that loves the German cars, I'm sure you know that Carl Benz was the true so-called first individual to create the automobile, even though it didn't look like an automobile. It's like a horse and buggy or a bicycle with a cart on it with a engine on it. That goes back to the late, like 85 or 1890, something like that. It could be off on that. So it's really Carl Benz, the German man that lost his father from pneumonia at a very young age and grew up in borderline poverty, that actually became a very successful engineer. You know, he's very smart individual that began the automotive movement in so many ways. But then I think about the motorcycles, about how the 1901 is the Indian, 1903 is the Harley Davidson. So it's just incredible kind of what started playing out. And the engine, the internal combustion engine, that really was more so, I have to say, in the late 1800s, that really kind of began to really be what it is. And as we all know, what's our biggest thing about the Ice Age is just that. It's about these internal combustion engines. And what's interesting is the wedge motors, the V8 motors, seem to be the number one motorhead enthusiast type of engine, because of the way that V8 engine emits that exhaust and that noise that just makes us, true to our heart and what we just love to hear. Not so much the V6 or the four-cylinder, just doesn't give that same type of feel. Just interesting how that setup of that engine is so different. And then for those that kind of know the basics of engines, you have four-stroke engines, you have a two-stroke engine. This is the two-stroke engine, and a four-stroke engine just is meaning it's four things that happen, four revolutions of the internals of the motor with the piston that has intake, combustion, and then it has the intake, compression, and then combustion, and then exhaust. So the intake sucking air in, and then the compression is then compressing the air, and the fuel squirted into the cylinder, and then you have the combustion of the piston, and then you have the exhaust. And the terms are top dead center and bottom dead center. So the piston is at the top dead center that pulls down the bottom dead center to bring in the air to go back up, to then get the fuel squirted in with the air, which then it goes back to bottom dead center, which then it lets go of all the hydrocarbons. And that's the challenge, because the people that figured out how to make these ICE vehicles, they had to use hydrocarbons, which in so many ways is gasoline, could be diesel, liquid fuels. But the hydrocarbons and the end result of that fuel being created into a different source, and that's what they say. An engine is what uses a form of energy to create its own energy, unlike a motor. A motor, so you have gasoline in front of you, which you watch we should say in your car, you watch your fuel gauge over time, that liquid fuel starts to evaporate out of your car because of the four things that happen in your engine I just explained that burn that fuel up. But so to create the energy for the motor to propel your vehicle or your boat or your truck or whatever it may be, an airplane. But then when you go to motors, and this is where it kind of gets a little fine line. Do you have a motor in your car or do you have an engine in your car? Well, technically a motor is more about electrical. So, and that's where we are. That's why I think this is a great conversation for the gentleman that brought up this conversation. He's like, hey, engine, motor, there is a difference. I'm like, yes, you're right, there is a difference. But we all kind of think are on the page that the motor is an engine. Well, in some ways it is because it propels or accomplishes something, but it does it at a different state to accomplish that because motors don't burn fuel. Motors are electric magnet fields. It's one state of energy versus an engine needs a liquid to create the energy, and the end result is that liquid is changed into the power. Versus on these electric vehicles, they have what they call wheel motors. I don't think you would call it a wheel engine because the wheel motor that's built into this hub assembly behind that wheel, that's an electric motor that's being powered by a battery pack that enables these wheels and tires to move because this is an all-wheel drive electric vehicle. This could be technically a one-wheel drive vehicle. It could be a two-wheel drive vehicle. It could be the front. It could be the rear. It doesn't matter. The whole point is, on electric vehicles, the whole movement is you have one solid state of energy all the time, and you don't have the end result of having to have an exhaust come out. You know, wonder where that came from. What that is? Yeah, I need to get that out of here. I need to just kind of go put that in the shed or something. Got to clean my shed out. That'll be another day project. So anyways, but we are on the EV. I mean, right here it is, the EV age. I have the personalized tags, the electric vehicle age, and that's where the big difference starts to play out in us ICE head people, is because you're dealing with a whole different technology of what moves this vehicle down the road, and that's where the differences start to become separated for so many, is because people don't get excited about these wheel motors propelling them down the road. Versus when you go over here to the ICE, you have this engine in front of the vehicle that's rumbling in front of you that has an exhaust system that's emitting that fourth stroke to get the exhaust and all the fuels that were burnt up to the hydrocarbons that create the CO2, which was the challenge of what they say for the Mother Nature Earth and the ozone layers, that this thing here is what's creating the global warming, and it's the problem. It's the problem child. And that's something that the child that has the most fun seems to be the problem child. So for me, I've got a whole collection of the problem child, because this is what the green agenda people are saying, is this is the problem of today's world, that these are the reason it's getting warmer, and this is the reason there's more floods, more rains, more droughts, more tornadoes, more hurricanes, more blah, 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 and the list goes on and on and on, because these are the problem child. But the astute ones will say that the wheel motor is a much better way to have movement, and it's a better direction for the future of mankind because it has net zero emissions once the vehicle is done. It doesn't have net zero emissions as it's being built, so that's still an ongoing challenge. And the running joke is that if you buy a Tesla, until you put 45,000 miles on it, you haven't hit the net zero emissions, because the amount of carbon footprint that took from the tailpipe, from the engines that were had to be used to get the materials to design that vehicle, there was a lot of engines being used that emitted the CO2, carbon dioxide. That's the problem child of the world. So once again, it's all about the addictions of these cars and trucks, motorcycles, and you know as well as I do, if I wasn't the big ice head guy, I wouldn't have these. If I was more the guy that was on the green agenda, I probably wouldn't have many cars because I would think that I'm the problem child, which I am a problem child. Anybody watch my channel, I'll be the first to raise a hand that, yeah, I'm challenging, that I wouldn't have all this stuff because this is all so much waste to the green agenda individual. It's just total waste that's just helping create the problem of the Mother Nature Earth. And I would have maybe a few electric vehicles, and that would maybe be it. And maybe I'd have an electric motorcycle, and that would kind of be, you wouldn't really know me. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I don't think anybody would really be watching my channel because I walked around and showed you 2 of my electric vehicles, and my electric bicycle, and my electric lawnmower, and my electric weed whacker, and my electric zero motorcycle. I don't think that you would probably be that really entertained on my channel, unless I was the guy that's really more trying to grasp and capture the green agenda movement, and I get into much more heavy depth of all the electric technology, the charging stations. I mean, there's guys out there that have some really nice YouTube channels, the State of Charge, and he has lots of videos of all the different electric vehicles and the different charging stations and the different kilowatt talk and the megawatt talk, and the list goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, that just doesn't excite me. What excites me is when I come into my garage and I start up my Mustang and this thing roars to life and I hear that really incredible exhaust come out of this vehicle and I feel the engine in the vehicle. And when I go to drive a car, this is a manual transmission car. So when I get in the car, it requires me as an individual to be part of this engine. You know, now we have a vehicle that requires me to interact with it. And that's what's so cool about manual transmission cars is you do have to have more interaction to drive this vehicle. And for somebody who's never driven a manual transmission, they would take time for them trying to figure out how it all works and what you do. Versus most vehicles today are automatic transmissions. It's the same thing with these motorcycles. You have to be very interactive with this engine. You have an engine between your legs, and I talk about it all the time. This V-twin, the true beginnings of what made Harley and Indian who they are is these naturally aspirated V-twin ICE engines. And when you sit on these motorcycles and you feel these engines between your legs and you can hear the exhaust, it's just an exhilarating, incredible feeling. And when you get on the motorcycle, you then are actually interacting with it through shifting the motorcycle, where you have to shift down to put it in first gear, and then you're shifting upward to get it into second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. Then you're downshifting, and you have to be in tune with the motorcycle to know what gear is appropriate gear for the speeds you are, the road you're on. You have the heel shifter there where you can use your rear heel to actually upshift it instead of having to use your top of your foot to upshift it. And then you have, of course, your brake that is helping you slow the motorcycle down. You got the rear brake here, you got the front brake. So for you, as an individual, the engine of this motorcycle has an incredible amount of power, but it didn't start out that way. You're talking about 1 horsepower motors, 3 horsepower motors, 10 mile an hour speeds were the original, like the Benz, Carl Benz. That was like a 10 mile an hour buggy or bicycle on wheels, wooden spokes, whatever it may be. But the point is, you have to be very in touch with your motorcycle here because you're always having to be aware of your surroundings, your environment, and the speed and what gear. And so you're much more interactive with a motorcycle than you are with a car. And then you're always concerned about the well-being of yourself, of what's up the road, what's around the corner. Does somebody see you, doesn't see you? So there's a lot going on, more than you may realize when a person rides a motorcycle. It's definitely an art to ride a motorcycle and to have the talent to ride it where it really is. You become so attached to it that you are it. And that's what you see, these incredible motorcycle riders, enthusiasts. These are people that just live in these motorcycles, and they just master the relationship of the motorcycles, knowing exactly how to handle them. Now, here's the Honda, which I've had every Honda Goldwing except this one. This is now my 4th Honda Goldwing, and 3 of them have been DCT. There's a DCT out in the trailer out there, but this is the manual. And I was just going to say that in the world of motorcycling now, you do have automatic motorcycles. Not real dominant by any means. I haven't seen Indian make an automatic, haven't seen Triumph, haven't seen Hurley. Honda is one of the select few that has gone that way. I guess BMW. Has BMW done that? I guess they have in so many ways. But then you go to electric motorcycles, and then that's where you go to just turn the throttle. It reminds me of being a kid, and you bought your dad bought you your first little Sears throwaway dirt bike, if you know what that is, and it's just a 1-speed, pull the throttle back, and zoom, you take off, and you don't have to have any interaction to make the bike go faster or slower. It's just 1 speed, and the more gas you give it, the faster it goes. You let off the throttle, and the slower it goes. Now over here in the ATV, that's a nice setup because it does have an automatic DCT, dual clutch transmission, and that's where it starts to change as well. In the car world, like my GT500s, a lot of people didn't like the Ford Mustang 2020 brand new updated car because they didn't allow it to, they didn't bring it with a manual transmission. You could only get it with a dual clutch transmission. And that turned a lot of people off. Even the Toyota Supra, if you see right here, I'm working around with my Toyota Supra Cup, that turned a lot of people off when back in 2020, that model came back into production and you couldn't get a manual transmission. You can now. But it really offended a lot of the Toyota Supra people. And also, a lot of people were disappointed that Toyota took the low road instead of the high road, and they just really took the BMW Z3 or Z4, whatever model it is, and just wrote off of BMW's technology and stamped the Toyota's name on it and had different body architecture on it. And you just really bought a BMW. In some ways, I think I should have bought a BMW. It's a BMW, in some ways, kind of like cooler, especially the convertible. Pricey, but that was a pretty cool car. I'm surprised I didn't get one. But I'm drinking my coffee. But I always wanted the Toyota Supra. From a kid growing up, I always wanted the Toyota Supra. And that was really my goal, was to be and eventually I accomplished it. And I got it. And the car was a nice car. But it really wasn't what I thought it would be in some aspects. And I think that was because it didn't have the manual transmission. And it didn't really have, it was okay. It was pretty cool. But I'm always just a domestic guy. But I thought to myself, too, somebody out there, I didn't do the research. I just think it's very interesting that us Americans were so involved in getting the engine going. The French, very involved. The British, very involved. The Germans, very involved. When did the Japanese? I don't think they did. I think the Japanese came in way later, and they were just wrote off of what had been built so many years ago and patent. And then the Chinese. Where's the Chinese, right? During this whole time of the Industrial Revolution in our country, what was going on in other parts of the world? I mean, it just gets very heavy, deep to kind of go to that. And think about, and that's what I talked about at the beginning of the week, is I talked about how America, the true beginnings, I think, of our society in this country, where we had the best, biggest success and growth, was through the Industrial Revolution. And of course, through the Industrial Revolution came, the capability of steel, Dale Carnegie, the Rockefellers, the oil, and all that stuff evolved into the steam engines, locomotive, transportation, and all evolved into the Henry Ford, that brought us what we have today sitting in front of us. But yet today, more than ever, we have an EV revolution on our doorstep. More than ever before, for anybody here, and everybody is very aware of that, is that at our age in life, more than ever, the EV revolution is happening. And who's pushing it the most? you would say this country is. China is pushing it the most because China has the raw materials and the infrastructure to be rewarded more than any other country to be successful in the EV transition. And you just have to really say that, do you actually believe that the Chinese think that the EV revolution is all about the green agenda? I don't think it is. I mean, I'm sure that in some ways the Chinese have intentions of trying to help Mother Earth, but with their policies and guidelines, what they do, I don't know how you can believe that, because they're one of the biggest coal mine users at this time, burning coal, and they're one of the biggest building of coal plants at this time, along with India. So they're building one thing that so-called has zero emissions out of the back of the car, which it doesn't have a tailpipe, as we all know. It's all wheel motors. It's all battery packs. But in so many ways, you have to say that the electric revolution is all about the motor. So it is. It's all about the motor. So the Chinese, more than ever, once again, the Chinese, in so many ways, are circumventing the engine. They're taking the engine out of our economy, which that's a whole other word that you could use as an engine, is you have an engine that what runs our country and our economy. And I talked about it in great length on Monday or Tuesday about America, that how this has been the biggest engine ever in this country because of these cars. And I've said this a gazillion times throughout many years of talking to people. If you took away all the cars and trucks and motorcycles and gas stations, you would be a third world country. Our country would be no different than going to these desolate countries that just have no infrastructure of any economic power. The whole economic power of our whole country has been driven by the ice age, the engine. But yet we now have on our doorstep so many that are trying to take the engine that has driven this country to its incredible success and being the number one most powerful country in the world, to the motor. And in the transition from the engine to the motor, I think we're going to witness the economic prosperity of what somebody thinks is going to come to this country through the motor, propelling the vehicles through motors. I'm not so sure that's going to play out the way somebody think, because China is the dominant guy that knows how to make motors more efficiently, faster, better, cheaper, and it's already happening. Build Your Dream, BYD, a Warren Buffett heavy invested Chinese company, has overtaken Tesla in the last quarter of their motor sales. They're selling motors. They're not selling engines. And so that should be a very big eye-opener to Joe Biden and his Green Agenda administration, that the Chinese are going to grow at a far more faster pace of building motors than this country will, and be competitive in the world market to provide the motors. But what's very interesting is I just talked about the Japanese and the Chinese and Toyota. It's incredible how Toyota is taking a different approach on this. And I've talked about Akio Toyoda, the former CEO, who was so resistant to all this motor technology, and he's been more on the hybrid of the engine and motor relationship. And Toyota's had incredible success, and in so many ways, the most sought-after Toyota product is the motor and engine relationship. And he sees that that's a far better package, and I agree with him. I so love this Ford Power Boost because it's a motor, it's an engine here, an ICE engine that is then connected to a motor, but then goes to the transmission, that goes to the driveline, that goes to your conventional rear axle and tires and wheels. But you have a relationship of a ICE engine and electric motor that make this vehicle really fun, more fuel efficient, very powerful, and it's a better relationship because you're sharing now the ongoing ICE technology. You're still continuing to have the liquid fuel that seems to be more of a stable infrastructure in the country with all the gas stations and all the refining process. And it seems as if as time progresses, they're figuring out how to make a cleaner fuel to cut down on the CO2 emissions challenges. So it's a better relationship for our country to be more on a page of continue the ICE with the motor. But then if you really want to listen to the Chinese and listen to Joe Biden and listen to all the muscle heads that have bullied their way into these boardrooms of major corporations that only want electric vehicles to be the dominant product with motors, so they're motorheads. So in so many ways, I would love to go up to a green agenda person and go, you're a motorhead. And they'd look at me like, what are you talking about? I have nothing to do with these cars that your channel has. Well, but you're a motorhead. That's so ridiculous. Well, I hate to break the bad news to you, but you're incompetent. You know why? Because a motor is not an ICE. Do you know what ICE is versus a motor? Probably don't. Just like, but you're telling me you kind of know how it all plays out. And at the end of the day, you're going to tell me how it all plays out. Wow. But you won't even be around to be able to tell anybody how it's all going to play out. So, but yeah, right. So, so the motorheads, in so many ways, are the green agenda addicted, the addicts that believe they know where it all plays out because you get away from that hydrocarbon fuel that creates the CO2, carbon dioxide. But then you have an argument that trees need carbon dioxide. It gets heavy and deep. But meanwhile, we're sitting here and we're witnessing how, in so many ways, the motorheads, the green agenda addicts, have pushed their policies. They have muscled them in. So once again, this week's conversation, America, muscle, and then little. Okay, so it goes so well with this conversation today because these motorheads have muscled their ways in to these companies throughout the world, and you and I have had little input to really tell these muscleheads of what we feel is what makes any sense. But at the same time, some will say, yeah, but look, the EV market in this country's sales have crashed. The EV sales have slowed down, but you have to remember, Elon Musk just sold 485,000 electric vehicles the last quarter of this year. He just had his best year ever of selling electric vehicles. How has the electric market crashed? BYD, Build Your Dream out of China, has just sold the most electric vehicles ever to date. How has the electric market crashed? So I'm not buying into that story. It's just excuses that, yeah, there's maybe Ford and GM took a little too aggressive position. But once again, did they listen to the little guy? They didn't, because they were muscled over by the motorhead. So for you and I, if Ford ever reached out to its participants, to Iceman, and said, hey, we're going to go full-blown electric, and we're going to make all of our cars electric, I'd have been like, it's a huge mistake. I wouldn't do that. I think the smartest thing you could do is build hybrid vehicles, Jim Farley. And if anything, Mr. Jim Farley, you need to step back for a second and understand that you're just getting caught up in the muscle motorheads that are forcing you to do things that so many don't want yet. It just isn't there. But yet, those that muscle their way into the boardroom and to the stockholders, and once again, if you listen to my channel, you know I've talked in great depth on how the green agenda has muscle like never seen before. The muscle is they've got an engine. What's that engine? Money. They've got a huge amount of money to go to these manufacturers to sue them, to bully them, to muscle them, and to make these big CEOs just be a little thing of anything that's really going on, because they're going to have to abide by their policies because they're motorheads. Oh my goodness gracious. It's always the morning talk. My voice kind of cleared up here, thank goodness. Here's the Jeep. The kid wants, she doesn't want one, but the kid's a Tacoma fan. I have had so many Toyota Tacomas, and there's no doubt in my mind, if I said, you know what, let's take the Jeep Mojave, let's go buy a Toyota Tacoma, my kid would be all over that. But I tell you what, I have had so many Tacomas. Now, the new one coming out, I'm very intrigued to see that thing. But Toyota, if anybody's really following and paying attention to Toyota, it is such a drag. Go to the Toyota dealership and try to buy something new that they brought out. You're not going to find it. I mean, Toyota right now, in so many ways, is, to me, very disappointing because they don't have much inventory. And you have to actually say, are they intentionally holding up the inventory just to really abuse the profits of these dealerships, making more money off you? Because be so lucky if you can get a Toyota Tacoma, because they don't have any. The Toyota Tundra seems to be pretty dominant. But the Toyota Tundra has always been the slower moving vehicle. I talked about that the other day about we get brand recognition in Toyota. And what is that all about? Why is the Toyota Tundra truck, even though so many will say it's the better vehicle, even though I went and drove a brand new Toyota Tundra and I was not impressed. Now, if I could drive the Toyota TRD Pro, I think I'd be impressed because that has the electric, it's the hybrid setup. But after owning this Ford Power Boost and then trying to compete against another vehicle, very challenging. This Ford Power Boost has spoiled me because it's such a nice vehicle and has so much power and it has that hybrid setup that if I go drive something else, it doesn't really have that same type of feel, and it still has that truck feel. One of the guys up there at the car show, Steve, who takes all the pictures on the car meet up there, he just got that brand new the Chevy Colorado. I think I even did a video of him, blue Colorado. He sold his Dodge Challenger wide body, the cinnamon stick. He sold that, traded that, and he got that new Colorado. And doggone it, he already got rid of it. He just traded in for a brand new Ram Laramie. And he was just like, you know what, that Colorado, cool truck, but it just didn't have the amenities. And the crazy thing is that Colorado truck was probably close to $50,000. And if he got the deal on the Laramie, he probably paid $60,000 for that thing because Ram is discounting their trucks a lot here lately. But he's in such a nicer vehicle, bigger vehicle. And that's what's so interesting about those mid-sized vehicles. The Rangers, the Tacoma, just trying to think, the Frontier. I mean, these are nice vehicles, but they're still not the full-size vehicle. And the problem is, if you really get exposed to the bigger truck, and you find out, too, that the fuel mileage isn't, like, radically different. So, like, this Power Boost, it's seeing a solid 19 miles per gallon. It's 20. I was hoping to see 23. But you get a Colorado, my Ford Ranger trucks, those things are always, 17, 18, 19. Same thing here. This is 17, 18 miles per gallon. Heck, I'm getting out of this thing 16, with it being the big-ass tires. On this Wild Track over here, I'm getting right now about 17. This thing is so nice. My kid's getting worried. I've been working out of this thing, and this is just the nicest engine vehicle. I just love this setup. It's such a great setup. And it's a great price point. Even it's hard, my gut instinct when I had that hot pepper red was don't get rid of it. And I so resisted to get rid of it, and I got rid of it. And that thing there was it was such a great vehicle for the money. And I really thought I'd never get rid of that vehicle. I really thought I finally got a vehicle. When can the Iceman find an engine vehicle that he just never gets rid of? Yeah, that's so challenging. For me, if you really watch my channel, I talked about it at the end of the year last year, is count how many vehicles I still have from a year ago. So now you go to the end of this year, what's still sitting here? So you fast forward for a year later. I mean, what would you say, what's still here? And what's different, what came in? I don't know. I mean, this is an extremely expensive habit. So I just can't see it. Can't see it. But then it becomes the challenge of, what do you give up? What do you give up? I mean, sincerely, what would I trade out my Bronco Raptor for besides just sell it to get out of the debt? There's the thing, it's the engine, the economy, my business. What drives my engine to continue to pay for all this stuff? Very expensive. So for me, what am I going to replace it with? The danger of these Mustangs is to bring GT500 back, but I think that should be a $150,000 car. There's no more of the Dodge product. So if I get rid of this, I'm just trading it for a used Dodge. But it only made 1,000 of these Super Bs, where I realized they're not. And a guy reached out to me the other day, which I never thought about this, but he claims that this is supposed to be set up like the 1320 drag pack. And I think I need to pull the sticker sheet out. Somebody else may know this better, but whether or not, Dodge brought out a 1320 drag pack that was basically the downsized Demon. It was supposed to be the affordable man's Demon with a 6.4 motor in it, but it had the suspension set up where it would change the settings in the shocks that put more pressure in the back of the vehicle when you went inside of the car and you hit drag mode. And literally the Bilstein or Bilstein shocks electronically would then, I guess, raise up the front and lower the back, or I don't really know everything how it works. But he said that his understanding was that the Super B that I have has that 1320 drag pack option in the vehicle. But when he goes to Dodge dealerships and talks to people, they have no clue what he's talking about. So if anybody's the Mopar enthusiast and expert and knows more about that, I've done some research on it. I found an article, and an article says, yes, this does have that drag pack option in it that does make it so when you go to drag options, it gets more of the weight to the back of the end for the back end to connect better for you to launch. So that's pretty cool if that's factual. Whole point is, why would I get rid of this? I mean, sincerely, what am I going to replace it with? I mean, I already got a Hellcat. The race truck over here, I mean, just one thing for sure, it'd be nice if that thing was maybe supercharged. Boy, that's a lot of truck. It's a lot of fun. And I just don't know. I mean, that thing there, it's got a badass look. But does it really have the components under it to really have that so-called a lot of power to it? And I'm really glad that I made the decision to get the supercharger on the Dark Horse over the GT, because what I'm hearing is the Dark Horse motor is a little bit more of a beefed up engine, which that's nice to know. Even though the Coyote motor has been known for years to be an 800 horsepower motor and very solid, and it doesn't blow up. You go to the Dodge Charger, you go to the 6.4 engine, the 392 motor, and these things aren't known to be the best vehicle to use to supercharge it or procharge it and then start getting this vehicle a lot of power into it, because the design of the heads aren't designed correctly. The pistons, the heads, doesn't disperse the heat, and you end up, for the most part, blowing the engine up. Think you're safe, 540. Think a procharger, 540, 580. Probably okay. But I think you start going much over that, I think you're pushing your luck. But it's already pretty powerful. And that's the thing, it's the engine. You know, here's the engine, 5.0. It's a 302 motor. 6.4. It all went to liters. What's this all about? All went to liters. We grew up in the cubic inch era. I got a 340 Hemi Cuda. I've got a 350 small block Chevy. I got a 327. Then it went to all this 5.0. Went to 6.4, 6.2 liter. This is the 3.5 liter Raptor truck. That's a 3.0 liter Raptor Bronco. This is a 6.2 or whatever, 6.7. What is it? I can't even keep track. Liter diesel power stroke, 6.7 liter. This here is what the hell is this? What liter is this freaking thing? I don't even know. It's the V6 Pentastar motor, whatever. This is the 2.7 liter, Bronco, which a lot of people were scared of these things like me because we were having catastrophic engine failure on that brand new 2.7 liter motor. Go in here, this is a 6.2, but what is a 6.2 motor? You got a 392, so is this a 377? What cubic inch is a 6.2? Is it 373? I can't even remember. This is a 5.0. Then you go over here, and then the motorcycle guys, they keep it in the good old days. Because this is a 121 cubic inch motor, 121. This is a 117 cubic inch motor. And you go over here to the Triumph. It's a 2500 cc motor. You go over here. This is a 108 cubic inch Indian motor. This is an 1800 cc motor. On the FTR, that's a 1200 cc. They go to the two-stroke. So it's all about the engines, the sizes. All right, my hands are freezing. I gotta get upstairs, and my dog, Kiefer Boy, he is causing trouble. I can already hear him upstairs, and he's a troublemaker. He's the problem child. Right, Rollo, let's get up here. Pop-ups. And what has he done to my office now, right? What destruction has happened? And, yeah. Okay, well, everybody's alive, so that's a good thing, right? There. So, get up here and kind of start winding it down to the engine conversations. And I gotta get my heat on because it's cold. I can get the thing on over here and then Dogs over here be want to jump. It's Friday. It's Friday. It's hard to believe. I mean, the first week of January. Look at my glasses. The colder months, these things totally transition, but then they don't transition back as fast in the colder months. My hands are cold. Got my coffee here. Got my Honda stuff on. You know, once again, when did the Japanese get all involved in mastering their engines and all that other stuff? So there you go. That's what I was going to do. So here we go. So what's interesting here is let's talk about the engine, and let's look at what we have here. So the engine, ICE, internal combustion engine, the 4 strokes. So the first commercially successful internal combustion engine was created by Etienne Lenoir around 1860. Sounds like a French to me. The first modern internal combustion engine, known as the Otto engine, was created in 1876 by Nicholas Otto. It is OTTO. The term internal combustion engine usually refers to an engine in which combustion is intermittent, such as more familiar 2-stroke and 4-stroke piston engines. There's 6-stroke engines out there. Did you know that? That's crazy. A Wankel rotor engine. I had that. I had the Mazda RX-7 10th anniversary edition. If you know what the Wankel rotor engine is, it's like the triangle style motor, and it goes around a big triangle, spins around, and it does the same things that a 4-stroke does. Then you have the gas, jet turbine, blah, blah, blah. So what's the history here? So now, various scientists and engineers contributed to the development of internal combustion engine. In 1791, John Barber developed the gas turbine. In 1794, Thomas Mead patented the gas engine. So I was telling you, 230 years, we're now 230 years ago when the gas engine was developed. Also in 1794, Robert Street patented an internal combustion engine. I think these are American citizens. I'm pretty sure, I know for a fact that this one guy here, John Stevens, in 1798, John Stevens, as I was talking about earlier, built the first American internal combustion engine. In 1807, French engineers who invented photography, they ran a prototype internal combustion engine. So it's really interesting how, like in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the engine concept kind of came to be, but it really wasn't until really the later 1800s that the real engine was then being used for the transportation of, the automobile. But in 1823, a guy, Samuel Brown, patented the first internal combustion engine. Well, what I read about this guy, John Stevens, he was a very prominent man. I think he was up there in Hoboken, New Jersey. I think he's who created Hoboken, New Jersey. And he was one of the first individuals to get the patent, to create the patent. He was very concerned for the well-being of people inventing things. So I think he was one of the key architecture of creating the patent laws of our country. So Samuel Brown got that back in 1823. And then 1854, Italian investors, so the Italians, the French are getting involved. And then you're going to the Germans, the Belgians. In 1864, Nicholas Otto patented the first atmospheric gas engine. That's where you had the spark, the air in the actual spark plug to create that internal combustion energy. In 1872, American George Brayton invented the first commercial liquid-fueled internal combustion engine. Nicholas Otto began working with the Germans, and then he patented the compressed charge 4-cycle engine. And then Carl Benz actually came from the 2-stroke gasoline engine. And then in 1886, he had the first commercial production of motor vehicles with internal combustion, in which a 3-wheeled 4-cycle engine chassis formed a single unit. And then in 1894, Rudolf Diesel developed the first compressed charge compression ignition engine, which people understand a diesel engine doesn't have a spark plug. It's all about that incredible force and heat from the glow plugs that start that diesel engine. Diesel fuel is, it's incredible. So when you refine gasoline, I think a 42-gallon barrel of oil gets you like maybe, I think, is it 12 to 14 gallons? I'll have to look at it again, but just so you know, when you're talking about barrels of oil being sold in the market, it's incredible the refining process of a barrel of oil to give you aviation fuel, diesel fuel, or gasoline. It's incredible how much material is lost. So yes, 42 gallons of oil used to refine into gasoline. The end result is, I think it may be 18 gallons maybe of actual usable fuel. And then in diesel, I think, you would think diesel would be more. I'd have to look it up. But if somebody out there is intrigued by that, look it up. That is incredible how you don't really ever think to yourself how much oil is produced, but yet how much is wasted to get the end product. And sure, the byproducts can be used in other manufacturing petroleum products. It isn't like I think they're going to lose that product, but I could be wrong. Somebody's much more engineer and science on that. That would be great to hear your information about that, because even for me, I never even stopped to even think about that till the other day. I was kind of reading a little bit more about that. But it then gets into just really the different engines, gas turbine. So it gets kind of very in depth of what. So anybody out there doesn't know what the Mazda rotary engine is, that's your Mazda rotary engine. And the running joke of those engines, you would go to the gas station and you would fill up your car and you'd have to put a quart of oil in the engine. If you think I'm making that up, if anybody's a rotary Wankel guy, conservative, every other fill up, you would have to add a quart of oil. I remember I got that car and I was just so taken back. I was like, I kind of knew they drank oil, but I used to carry around quart bottles in my vehicle, and literally when I'd be at the gas station eating gas, I would literally be adding a quart of oil to that engine. It had so much oil loss from that design. So now, back to the motor. So now we're at the age of all this ice that's been around for 230 years, but really not so much. Really talking 100 plus years, is all being forced to become a motor, to be an electric motor. All because of the agendas that I just kind of spoke about in general. And Elon Musk is the motorhead. Think about this. Elon Musk is the biggest motorhead to date, per se. But BYD, I guess, will be taking the reins from Elon Musk. So, but where does it reverse? Where does the motor, the ongoing motor, pound their fists to bring the motors to be the dominant force of transportation in our society? When does it really take a step backward, or does it? I mean, does it just continue to, like I said, people say EV sales are down. Why did BYD just post its biggest sales? I get it. Domestic side, I understand this. But worldwide, the electric vehicle is gaining traction like never seen before. I just can't see how anybody would think that it's going to lose its momentum. As we sit here and I talk day in, day out, how many more electric charge stations were installed in our country because of the Inflation Reduction Act subsidizing all of this infrastructure to come to be to enable the motors to be the most dominant thing more than ever in our of us Ice Age people. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Another week has gone by, and hey, I accomplished bringing another week, per se, of content that hopefully others enjoy and like, and it's really cool. Every now and then somebody throws out an idea, and I take their idea. And there is the kid coming up to office. Man, mine must be running really late, or she must be running, oh man, it's already that time. And there she is. There is my daughter coming ready to work. Too bad she didn't have her shirt off because they could see your tattoo. Oh, here we go. Oh, she's got a short sleeve shirt on a 10-degree day. Really? Wow, this is crazy. So it's not she says there's something so over it.
A bandage.
Oh, okay, so when do you get to take that off?
Tomorrow.
So it'll be official, beyond official once you do that. Are you so happy with your decision?
Yep, and I'm gonna get another one.
So now my daughter said I was wrong about a hibiscus and a piston. So she was so disappointed.
Piston and 2 roses.
Right. And why were the roses? What is the thought of the roses? Just for flowers?
My favorite.
Your favorite roses. Hey, is it amazing to anybody? Is it amazing that a woman likes roses? What's your favorite color rose?
I like red roses.
Oh, wow.
And I like the tangerine ones that they dye.
Okay, so it's not natural.
No.
Okay. All right, so you want to get a second?
Yeah.
Really?
On my arm.
Oh, my gosh. You're already out of control. Yeah, here. The tatted up kid.
Not soon, just like down the road.
Yeah, what one will that be of?
I don't know, that's why I'd be down the road.
Hi again, thanks for watching the adventures. What's gonna happen to the John Deere thing? I don't know. Man. I got mixed feelings on all that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so yeah, just stay tuned for more adventures and what's gonna be bought next, right? For the first of the year, what do I buy? A new Tacoma pickup truck.
Yeah.
Ah!
That's what I want.
Yeah, there you go. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for watching my channel. As always, God bless. Stay safe. Have a great weekend, and just stay tuned for more adventures. And share the channel. Share the channel.
My other favorite rose is white rose.
What?
White roses are also my favorite.
White roses, red roses, orange roses,
That was great.
purple roses. No shit like that. All right, everybody. Have a great day.